3 astronauts died in a training accident in 1975. Apollo 17 was humanity's final moon mission. But 50 years later, when Commander James Mitchell walked into NASA headquarters, he carried proof of a secret mission that never officially existed. And what they discovered up there was so dangerous, they've been hiding it for half a century. Before we start, hit subscribe and the notification bell so you never miss these buried stories. And let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love connecting with viewers around the world who help us uncover the truth. The security guard at Johnson Space Center couldn't believe what he was seeing. It was 2:47 a.m. when the elderly man approached the main gate, carrying a worn duffel bag and speaking with the quiet authority of someone who'd spent decades in space programs. He looked to be in his 70s, weathered by time but with eyes that held secrets too heavy for one person to carry. "My name is Commander James Mitchell," the man said, showing identification that made the guard's blood run cold. "Serial number 456789123. I was declared dead in a training accident 50 years ago, but I wasn't training, I was on the moon." According to NASA records, James Mitchell had died alongside astronauts Robert Chen and Patricia Williams in a capsule fire during a routine simulation in March 1975. The accident had been quietly memorialized, the families compensated, the program officially concluded. But the man standing at the gate knew details about classified Apollo procedures that only someone who'd actually flown the missions could know. NASA officials were called immediately. Within hours, Mitchell was sitting across from Director Sarah Hopkins in a conference room that hadn't seen this level of security clearance since the original moon landings. What he told her would force NASA to confront the most carefully guarded secret in the history of space exploration. "Apollo 18 wasn't cancelled," Mitchell began, his voice steady despite the weight of 5 decades of silence. "We launched on March 15, 1975. Secret mission. No media coverage, no public announcement. As far as the world knew, the Apollo program had ended with Apollo 17 in 1972. Hopkins checked her records. According to official documentation, Apollo 18 had been cancelled due to budget constraints. The Saturn V rockets had been repurposed, the crew assignments dissolved, the mission scrubbed before it began. But Mitchell's knowledge was too detailed, too specific, too accurate to be fabricated. "Why the secrecy?" Hopkins asked. Mitchell's expression darkened. "Because of what we found up there, what we were sent to investigate." The story that emerged challenged everything NASA had told the public about the end of the Apollo program. According to Mitchell, Apollo 18 had been a direct response to disturbing discoveries made during the final official missions. Lunar samples from Apollo 16 and 17 had contained anomalies that couldn't be explained by conventional geology or meteorite impact theories. But that wasn't the most shocking part. "We weren't the first secret mission," Mitchell continued. "The Soviets had been sending crews to the lunar far side since 1974. Unmanned at first, then manned missions using their N-1 rocket program that everyone thought had failed. They'd found something, built something. We were sent to find out what." Hopkins felt the room temperature drop. Soviet lunar missions after 1972 were pure speculation in NASA intelligence reports. The idea that they'd achieved successful manned lunar landings while keeping them completely secret seemed impossible. But Mitchell had photographs. The images he produced from his duffel bag defied easy explanation. Lunar surface photography showing structures that clearly weren't natural rock formations. Geometric patterns, artificial lighting, what appeared to be mining operations on the far side of the moon where no human mission had ever officially landed. "This is from our lunar rover cameras," Mitchell explained, pointing to a photograph that showed tracks in lunar soil leading to a partially buried metallic structure. "That's a Soviet lunar base. They'd been operating there for over a year when we arrived. But the Soviet base wasn't the most disturbing discovery. Chen was our geologist. On our 3rd day, we found something that changed everything." Mitchell pulled out another photograph. Artificial structure, clearly not human. Carbon dating, over 65 million years old. The photograph showed an excavation site with both American and Soviet equipment around a massive crater. At the bottom, partially exposed, was something that shouldn't have existed anywhere in the solar system. The structure was still active. Energy emissions. On our 6th day, Chen was taking samples when it activated. Massive discharge. Chen was vaporized instantly. But that wasn't when everything went wrong. The energy had damaged their lunar module's return engine. Williams stayed behind for repairs while Mitchell was ordered back to Earth with intelligence data. The plan was to send rescue missions once they understood what they were dealing with. Earth lost contact immediately after I departed, electromagnetic interference. By the time communications restored, massive thermal signatures, nuclear explosion level. Williams, the Soviets, everyone, presumed dead. Mitchell returned carrying evidence of ancient alien technology, only to be told his mission never existed. Samples confiscated, photographs classified, Mitchell relocated to a black site for psychological evaluation. 2 years of interrogation, told repeatedly I'd imagined everything, teams of psychiatrists trying to convince me it was space trauma. But Mitchell had physical evidence. Lunar samples with isotopes not found on Earth. Medical records showing radiation exposure from unknown sources. Most disturbing, a metallic fragment from the structure containing elements not on the periodic table. 1977, they offered a choice. New identity, government pension, never speak about Apollo 18, or treason charges. Mitchell chose silence. For 47 years, he lived under an assumed name in Montana, watching NASA struggle to explain why manned space exploration effectively ended after its greatest triumph. They couldn't risk another team finding what we found. Easier to let the program die than admit what was up there. But now, at 78, Mitchell decided truth mattered more than safety. Williams might still be alive. The structure is still active. We've spent 50 years lying about why we abandoned space exploration just when it got interesting. Congressional hearings were scheduled. Current lunar satellites were tasked with photographing Mitchell's coordinates. The images confirmed geometric structures inconsistent with natural geology. Thermal signatures suggesting underground activity. Recent changes indicating something still operating nearly 50 years later. Mitchell now lives under federal protection while investigations continue. His story forced NASA to acknowledge significant gaps in official space exploration history. Whether those gaps hide ancient alien technology, ongoing Soviet lunar operations, or something else entirely remains classified. Today, Mitchell visits the Johnson Space Center Memorial, where astronauts lost in service are honored. Chen and Williams are listed among those who died advancing human exploration. Mitchell knows they died protecting secrets that may have cost humanity decades of scientific advancement. We were explorers, Mitchell told congressional investigators during classified testimony. Instead, we became guardians of secrets. Chen died for science. Williams died for duty. I've spent 50 years knowing what we could have learned if fear hadn't been stronger than curiosity. The full truth of Apollo 18 may never be revealed. Too many documents remain classified, too many participants have died, too many secrets are buried in archives. But Mitchell's testimony forces recognition that the Apollo program didn't end because of budget constraints. It ended because of discoveries too dangerous to acknowledge. The moon keeps its secrets well, but some truths are too important to remain buried in space. Sometimes when silence becomes unbearable, someone finds courage to speak for those who no longer can. Perhaps it's time to ask not why we stopped going to the moon, but why we were afraid to tell the world what we found there. Every day we share stories of courage and sacrifice that deserve to be remembered. If these forgotten heroes inspired you, please subscribe to Untold Legends Stories and hit the notification bell to make sure you never miss the stories they tried to launch into space and forget. Your support helps us bring these important tales to light. Like this video if it moved you, and share your thoughts in the comments below. These astronauts waited 50 years to have their voices heard. Let's make sure their stories reach everyone who needs to hear them.